Hey everybody, welcome to EduMatch. Thank you so much for joining us and for tuning in. So tonight is we're having a very special episode featuring Snap 17 contributing author Tara Linney. Welcome, Tara.
Hi, thank you.
All right, great to have you here. So for anyone who wants to hear more about Tara, let me read you her bio really quickly. So Tara is an award-winning learning innovation coach, recognized for her work in gender equity in the teaching of computer programming, global collaborations in education, and educational coaching. As a learning innovation coach, Tara has guided educators on developing interdisciplinary learning opportunities, allowing their students to leverage prior knowledge in the learning of new concepts. Part of Tara's recent work includes integrating sustainable development goals into education, finding places of overlap within the C3 framework, NGSS, and Common Core state standards, as well as using ISTE student standards to support the how in the learning process. So back in 2015, Tara became an international educator based in Singapore. She's traveled to conferences throughout the US and Asia to speak on a wide variety of educational topics. Tara is a Google certified innovator, Google education trainer, ASCD emerging leader, and a Raspberry Pi certified educator. She's the 2017-2018 ISTE Global Collaboration PLN president and has been an active ISTE member since she began her career in education back in 2010. She holds an MS degree in the science of instruction from Drexel University and is certified as an instructional technology specialist. Her primary background is grounded in helping educators incorporate meaningful technology experiences into their classroom. Two of Tara's biggest passions include teaching students how to code and introducing them to a more global world. So, wow, that is just awesome. So great to have you on here, Tara.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. All right, so we're going to jump right into it. So we heard about your background, but who or what inspired you to go into education?
So I guess there were a couple of things. First, I had a kindergarten teacher who, I got in trouble for like drawing a butterfly the wrong way, and I was like, oh. And so I had always wanted to be a kindergarten teacher so I could remix that equation. But more importantly, ever since I was a very, very, very young child, I would donate like my allowance, I would do fundraisers, I would do anything that I could to help people. And so I'm a helper first and foremost. And so I had worked in nonprofit for the American Cancer Society, and that just wasn't really like fulfilling me the way that I had hoped it would. And so then I jumped into education and haven't really looked back. It's been great because you can see the impact that you're having on people on a daily basis, regardless of if it's teachers or students or a larger community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you are also super connected. You are the ISTE Global Collaborations president, and you have been like an EduMatcher before EduMatch was even a thing. She's like EduMatcher number -1, because we were talking about it even before it began. So tell us about your journey to collaboration and what kinds of things have you learned in connecting with other educators?
I've just become in collaboration, I've become so much more culturally aware than I was just residing in the US and just being like an American, right? So through collaboration, I've gotten a job here in Singapore, and it's been my first time outside of the US. I'm leaving Singapore this year, and through being connected is how I'm assuming that I'll find my next posting or my next pivot or whatever it happens to be. And just being connected is super awesome because what happens is when you connect with others, you build on your own professional practice and you grow so much that it impacts the lives of everybody around you, which includes your students and other colleagues and things of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we are all enjoying learning from you. So one thing that I've learned from you is about the sustainable development goals. So what exactly are those for anyone who might be unfamiliar, and how did you become interested in them?
Okay, so the Sustainable Development Goals, they were set up by the UN, I believe back in 2015. They had this big conference, and they are to replace the Millennial Goals. And so with the Sustainable Development Goals, the idea is that by 2030, these 17 goals will be met. And so the hashtag for them is just SDG. There's a website which we can tweet out. And Sustainable Development Goals are all about how we can create and live in a more sustainable world for future generations. Like right now, we're consuming a lot of resources, and it's not just about tech or things like that, but there's a lot of imbalance going on in the world, from water consumption and how it's being used, to sustainable communities, to gender equality, to poverty, to hunger, to education, you name it. And there are 17 goals that relate to those. Now, how I got involved was because as the ISTE Global Collaboration PLN president, last year as the president-elect, and our award winner was Fran Siracusa, and she won based on her work with the SDGs. And I was like, what are these SDGs? Like, they seem like they're right up my alley. It's all about helping. It's all about making a difference, but I have no idea as to what they are. So over the summer, Fran and I met up for coffee and for a Twitter chat, and face to face, and it was really great. She broke down what they were, why they're so important, and ever since then, I've just been seeing them in like everything. Like, you open your eyes and like there's another SDG. And the cool thing about the SDGs is that it brings the why into education. So we've got these different things of like how we do and what we do, but oftentimes we'll overlook why we do it. And the SDGs help to zone in on that why.
Absolutely. And the why is so important. So just wanted to take a quick second to thank Peggy as well as Brian, who are chiming in on the YouTube Live. So thanks so much for watching. All right. So Tara, in your chapter, you wrote about the SDG. So tell us a little bit about what we can expect to see in your chapter in EduSnap 17.
Okay. So in the chapter, and I won't like tell the whole chapter because, well, that would just give it away, but they are tried and true practices that incorporate the SDGs into education. One, which I'm super excited about, which we're working on today, is for a hackathon. It's actually a design hackathon, and with a design hackathon, it's not about like coding and building apps, but instead it's about looking at like your spaces, like your communities, and figuring out if there's going to be a renovation, which our school is going to undergo a renovation in the next few years, what things we should keep and why, and how we can reuse and upcycle and downcycle things for different purposes. And so our entire fourth grade, which consists of about 300 students, tomorrow, which is Friday, because right now it's my Thursday morning. So on Friday, they will be participating in an all-day hackathon where they will be designing the solutions to problems that they've seen throughout the school when they did their walkabout on Tuesday. And so it's been a really, really fun process because, like, yes, it kind of seems like a one-off, but it's actually not, because our whole social studies unit is based on interdependency and how to build interdependent communities. And when we talk about that, and when we look at where we reside in a country that imports more than it exports, like, we are known for our imports, not for exporting really much of anything. We've got to consider what impact our decisions in terms of the building is going to have on different countries that are the people that we import products from, for example.
All right, so definitely a lesson for the students. So wanted to say hello to Rochelle, who is also tuning in right now. So how might educators integrate these sustainable development goals in their classroom, taking into account other standards? Because I know that you talked about that as well in your chapter.
Yeah, so first off, like, you've got to understand what your standards are, right? So we use C3 framework, and it's very new for us, but we also use NGSS, which is Next Generation Science Standards. And there are some glaring NGSS standards that like talk about water use in communities. And, you know, you see keywords like that and you're like, wait a minute, that's SDG 6. Okay, I don't have them all memorized. I literally just have like 5 of them memorized. Anyhow, but that's SDG 6, which is all about conserving water and like having clean, safe water for use all over the world. So it's bringing the SDGs in as the why, and maybe as the thing that triggers the inquiry within a lesson, as opposed to saying like, we're going to learn this standard. It brings the purpose into it to get students to buy in more to the process.
All right, cool. So another one of your great passions is coding. So I know that you have some exciting projects going on with that. So would you mind just sharing that with our viewers?
Sure. So I am working on a book, and by working on, I mean the first draft is done, and I'm working on edits at this point. So the book is called Achieving Gender Equity and Teaching Coding. The thing about equity versus equality and versus girls can code and things like that is that there's an SDG 5. Is it 5? Yes. Okay. There's an SDG that's all around gender equality. Equality is giving everybody the same thing, versus equity is giving people what they need to succeed. Before we start talking about treating everybody the same, we've got to realize that some people need different things to get to the point that we'd like them to get to. So that's why the book is called Achieving Gender Equity and Teaching Coding. And the idea is to help bridge the gender equity gap that exists in the coding world. When we look at tech companies, there's a major imbalance in terms of women versus men at some of the largest companies in the world. And if we're looking to bridge that gender gap, then we need to start in our schools. And there's not a book out there yet that helps teachers to bridge that gap. And so I've created one. And to help fund it, because it'll be self-published at this point, I've set up this Kickstarter, and the link is right there. And we're super, super close to the goal, currently sitting at about 76 or 77%, and there's only 12 days left.
All right, so definitely that's really exciting. Super excited to see that book come out, and getting a lot of great feedback on the YouTube live page about your project right now. So wonderful. So if you have one piece of advice for anyone watching right now, what advice do you have for other educators based on your experiences?
Just be open. So Simon Sinek probably says it the best in his book about starting with the why. Start with the why. In education, we've got all these whats and all these standards, but in order to really leverage that learning experience for students, bring the why into it and lead with that, because that'll, first off, engage them, and second off, empower them to really make a difference. When they can see that there are problems that exist in the world and that they're not just learning something to learn it, then that really is how you bring the why into education. And then when you look at tech and different tools like that, that's the how, right? So why, how, and what together, but start leading in with the why, and then the rest all falls into place.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for meeting with us today and for sharing all of this great information about your upcoming project and your chapter and things of that nature. So if people want to connect with you online, how can they do that? How can they find you?
The easiest way would be just Tara Linney on Twitter. If you Google me, I believe I'm still the first hit. There's only one other in Kentucky. And yeah, and if you hit me up on Twitter or DM me, we could totally have an email conversation or anything like that.
All right, very, very cool. So thank you again, Tara, for joining us. And thank you to everybody who's watching, who's lurking, who will watch later, who's interacting on the YouTube live. Definitely appreciate you all. So thanks for tuning in. So next episode will be on Sunday at a special time. So it's going to be a tweet and talk at a special time. There may not be a video panel. It's going to be the tweet up at TIE 17. So we're very happy to partner with MN Lead. So we're going to be doing a tweet up in the lobby of our lovely Grand Hyatt Hotel in Minneapolis, where the conference will be taking place. So definitely tune in 7 p.m. Eastern time, same bat channel, podcast with an S, .edumatch.org. So definitely check it out. So everyone have a fantastic evening, and thanks for joining.